Roll, please.
Mr. Angeli,
Here.
Mr. Barnett,
Here.
Mr. Grabsky, Mr. Labrie,
Here.
Ms. Retzko,
Here.
Mr. Walters,
Here.
Ms. Way, Mr. Zelman,
Here.
and Chair Partington.
Yeah.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a call. So the first item is approval of the agenda, so I need a motion to put that forward for consideration.
So moved. Second.
I have a mover and a second. Now, as far as this agenda is concerned, do we want to move up, like we did last time, the subject for which we have visitors on the water plant? Is everybody in agreement with that? Then we minimize the amount of time that visitors will be here. So the agenda will be as written, but we will bring forward all the ITF. Yes, that's right. So with that, I have approval of the agenda as amended. Moved by Ralph, seconded by you as well. All those in favour? Aye. So the next item is approval of the previous meeting minutes from April the 7th, 2025. Any amendments, corrections, additions that anyone wants to make? You need to move approval. You need a motion to approve.
Move with that corrections. Second.
Seconded by James.
Correction.
So now, any additions, corrections to these minutes as written? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roosevelt, seconded by Martin. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, before we move on, there were a couple of loose ends that came up at the last meeting. There are the minutes here, held over from and that basically they're items of Marta's. I just wanted to check. You wanted a couple of pieces of information. One I noted was you wanted information about the wastewater treatment plant. Did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you're happy with that? And then you also wanted information about the redundant line near the convention
I
centre.
received that on
Look at
April
that as well.
22nd.
And then also, I think Jerry and together with Martha, they wanted some information on the river next to Victoria Park, how often it overtops the seawall. Dr. Gassman, I'm not sure everyone saw it, sent out an email on that. Did everyone see that email? So that, the bottom line was it, I think she said it overtops, has overtopped 5 times since 2020. Okay. So that's those loose ends taken care of. With that, we are on to the main item, an update on a new water treatment plant. So who's going to
That would be me, Daniel Fisher, project manager with City for Lauderdale, and I don't think you've ever met anyone from the project company. This is the representative, Joey Padron. Whenever you think project company, this is the guy with it.
So who's going to give the presentation?
Me.
Okay, carry on.
So Dan, the project company is Keith Engineering?
The project company is,
Prospect Lake LLC.
it's pretty much the financing arm
Okay,
for the project, Ridgewood Infrastructure and IDE.
75% owned by Ridgewood, 25% owned by IE.
okay, so that's the,
Project company.
That's who the
Created
city
specific.
has the agreement with.
Yeah.
And then there's a separate
Contract
agreement for
between the
this.
city and Prospect Lake LLC.
okay,
And Kiewit is the contractor doing the project.
yeah.
He is my contractor under contract with me.
Right.
So there was a separate entity created because that's a 3P, public-private partnership, that's what it is?
there was a separate because there was a partnership between Ridgewood, which is based out of New Jersey,
Okay.
and IDE, which is based out of Israel.
There is, it's just open.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
It's a lot more
presentation.
complicated than that, but.
Oh, yeah. But
So,
that's why I'm here.
So as you guys remember, back in 2023, the city approved the agreement with the project company to design, build and operate this plant. We are about more than halfway through with commercial operation scheduled for September 2026, and we're still on time for that.
Can I just stop you there a moment and just recognise that Lindsay joined us as a member. Let's record her.
Hi, how are you?
Daniel.
Oh, ain't she? How can I miss you?
So
to sneak in.
we are
Sorry, carry on.
well through construction. The majority of the actual construction will be done by the end of the year, and that's when we'll start wet testing the facility. So a couple big things that we talked about last time I was here, we had those enabling works / city infrastructure obligation items that the city is responsible for. We finished that design and we transferred that to project company, I think in February of this year. So we've taken that risk and moved it to them, so that it'll be done August 2025. Yes.
I don't exactly remember when the question came up but there was concern about the treatment plant being properly constructed to take a Cat 5 hurricane. And I understand that it wasn't, and that it had to be a change order in order to make it so.
So if I think I remember what you're asking is, in the initial agreement, project companies spec'd out a metal building. That was Cat 5 rated, but between our operations and then the neighbors to the north, they requested that building be changed to concrete. So that's, I think that's what you're getting at, but it was always Cat 5, the buildings.
Because we were told that it didn't meet the Cat 5 requirement at the time.
I don't know who told you that, but it's always been.
It's already been, okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe I had a dream one night.
I remember I remember your comment, I thought that they had to go back and change it.
Yeah.
That change order was to change both of the buildings, the nanofiltration building and the admin building to concrete, and then we made the admin building a little bigger.
It's definitely Cat 5 now.
Okay,
The
thank you.
the admin building is
That's the important, whether it was or not before, the important
Yeah,
thing
it
is
is.
Cat
Yeah.
5 now. Thank you.
I think Daniel will show pictures, you'll see the admin building is essentially built, they're already starting to put partitions and drywall. So it's very, very well built, precast concrete.
So moving on, a couple of the larger change orders that we brought to the commission last year was the OCCT study. And part of that's being kicked off right now at Virginia Tech, they're doing some bench scale testing. And then the actual pipe rigs and pilot machine will get here in October.
So can you be larger on that, the testing, what's coming and what gets done and what,
So
results?
So in the base agreement, PFAS is not mentioned. This agreement was signed in February of '23 and that rule came out in March of '23. So it's silent on PFAS, so project company has no obligation to meet that standard. So what this is gonna do right now is to run a PFAS pilot and see what the current plant is capable of and if needed, what steps we need to do to meet the standard.
So
Where's the EPA at with the standard now?
Jerry?
So
No, the EPA standard?
So my understanding is the rule was finalized, but there's been some injunction or something happened recently where they're taking another look at it. So
The Trump administration's got another 30 days to decide if they're gonna challenge the EPA. They asked for, 60 days, and then the 60 days happened. We were hoping that we're gonna get a decision from the Trump administration of what they were gonna do, if they were gonna challenge it or not. Because the EPA is being challenged by like AWWA, the water, so I think they just asked for another 30 days. So we don't know if the Trump administration is gonna challenge that PFAS rule.
Marta?
Thank you. So, you're right, that rule was not on the table yet, and it's been approved as of December 2023 for the 4 parts per trillion, and there is no health data that what is actually doing the PFAS in the body. There's the data, the EPA kind of expedite the approval, and they pushed this through in December, and there was no scientifically enough data to show the causes that PFAS causing in the human body. So that's why it was challenged by AWWA, which is the National Organization for American Water Works. So utilities across the United States, because this is Safe Drinking Water Act, we all need to comply with this. There is no option, just like magnesium, just like phosphor, just like the chlorine in the water, and it's extremely costly. So that not only there was not enough health data, kind of the rule was expedited, there was pushed through the Congress through the previous administration on a couple of last days when they were in the office. There's also huge burden on the utilities to meet those criteria when we are not producers of the PFAS, right? Like we kind of receiving the PFAS because the producers are the 3M or the manufacturing that they actually produce PFAS. So that's why the American Water Works challenged that EPA. And right now, obviously, we have a new administration, we have new people in the EPA office. So in June, we should know if that number, which is 4 parts per trillion, which is very difficult to even measure, it's kind of not detectable. We don't even have equipment in the United States. There's very few laboratories that they can provide those detection limits. So we're measuring something what we don't have a machine to measure. So it's kind of hard for utilities to comply with this rule. But we do have time by 2027. We're supposed to have a plan to the EPA how we're gonna meet this new criteria. It's a Safe Drinking Water Act. I don't believe that they're gonna remove. I think they probably would give us more time for utilities because by 2027 we're supposed to construct something what is gonna treat PFAS. So that's financially and not, construction-wise, not practical for utilities. So my personal opinion, professional opinion, I think we're still gonna have a PFAS. It's hard to walk away from the rule when it's a health and science data. Somehow, we just need to organize better. My hope is that we would have a better deadlines and more time to implement that rule, and some money from the federal government, because right now this is unfunded, not funded mandate that, not only Fort Lauderdale, but
Yes.
any city, Ohio, Montana, small utility gonna have to implement equipment. But where I'm going with, you said nanofiltration, did not include PFAS study. Nanofiltration, it's one of the treatment methods that's actually recommended for a PFAS removal. So I'm kind of I'm trying to understand why we're talking about the change order when nanofiltration is recommended and well known as a treatment to remove PFAS.
So
Yes.
IDE is on the hook to operate this plant for the next 30 years, and they're not gonna guarantee that we're gonna need it unless they study it and actually see what the plant can do.
Yeah, and also here's the real issue. 30% of the plant does not remove PFAS. 30% of the plant is IX. So 70% of the plant runs through nano, and that 100% will remove PFAS. Now the question, of course, is what's the blend that was designed at 70-30? How much PFAS will it remove? It's gonna remove PFAS. But just like Daniel said, the operator, to guarantee that so they can make a commitment to 4 ppm for 30 years, they need to do the study. So if it was 100% nano, this wouldn't even be an issue. But the plant is designed around the 70-30 blend.
Hold on a moment, Martha.
Yeah.
Bruceville?
Couple of questions. One, when you say we have no equipment capable
Measure.
to measure the standards as they're put forward now, at what amount can we measure?
Well, that rule, PFAS was always under UCMR, which is unregulated monitoring rule for the chemicals in the water. So every 5 years, every utility had to do it. So we were always monitoring PFAS, and that's very technical. I wanna say 20 parts per trillion, but if you're looking at Europe, they have 2 parts per trillion, right? So they have
can
even
measure.
lower. According to Europe, they must measure because they have standards like not every country in Europe. We're talking about the Netherlands. Netherlands has 2 parts per trillion. So maybe that's, and it's not like we don't have equipment, that we do have, but the equipment it's a new regulation and we don't have capacity in the United States to have sufficient equipment that provide us those results quickly enough. Because I've been testing for PFAS through the UCMR last, every 5 years. It's been going for 20 years, but the fact that we now lowering the standard and everybody does the testing, we kind of, standing in a line and we don't have the results, and it's really hard to push through the laboratory with the QA, which is quality control, and they rejecting that test very quickly. So the machine itself, it's kind of, it's difficult for us to get those results on time. Sometimes you think you're gonna get results next month, and it could be a year.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. If we don't have the equipment capable of measuring, do we have anybody trained to measure it when we get the equipment? Because it's difficult for me to understand if we don't know what we're measuring, how do we know we're measuring?
It's only some laboratories in the United States have that high certification. It's very expensive equipment. So I don't know where you guys sending your samples, probably North Carolina. For this region, we all sending to North Carolina. I don't know how often you're taking, but we do have equipment, but it doesn't mean that, we don't at all. Like we know, but our results, it's the time to get the results is not only costly, but it is a time. Machine sometimes is rejecting because you have too much chlorine in the water, and you gotta retake the sample. So those results are not coming like very quickly or, in a week, that we can actually make some good decisions here. But I also wanna be cautious with the fact that right now we have a 4 parts per trillion. Like I said, we are challenging that rule as the utilities nationally, and there is a lot of questions if that number 4 should be there. Before there was, I don't know, could be 10 parts per trillion, right?
That's what the EWWA is fighting for.
Correct.
They're fighting for 10. They believe 10 is more realistic for utilities to
And
obtain.
give us faster results and compliance wise.
They wanna take it from 4 to 10 if they had a dare weight, but I don't know who's gonna win.
Greg?
I think they also wanna extend the time for
Yeah.
compliance.
Pardon me for not knowing, but could somebody tell me what PFAS is?
Polyfluoro
I'd say Teflon.
acid.
Teflon, pretty much, okay, Teflon particles in the water, okay.
It's everywhere. So I like to call this forever chemical and everywhere chemical. So the fact that we saying, it's in the drinking water, and that's what the AWWA is challenging. It is in the air, it's in the makeup, I'm the guilty one, I wear makeup. It's in your hair shampoo product, lotion, sunscreen, we're living in Florida. It is everywhere.
It's in candy wrappers.
So I'm always cautious when I talk to my customers that we gotta remove from the water. I can do my best and pay a lot of money to remove this chemical from the water. It's not, but it's also everywhere. It's not only forever, but it's everywhere. Where you look, what you eat, or your styrofoams, plastic, in the lipsticks, there is a PFAS everywhere. You breathe, you eat, you wear, so it's just part of the education, but looks like the fingers are pointed to the utilities right now, and we the one who's receiving, and we gotta remove, but not the producers.
Martha?
Thank you.
You're
I'm enough.
an expert, but most of the people here, are not expert.
Yes,
So I need to get
I
them to
would
ask
stay
more
quiet
like
for-
layman
No, don't,
type questions.
I enjoy knowing.
No, that's fine, but,
I'm sorry.
James?
Daniel, correct?
Yep.
So you have the bullet point says PFAS pilot testing, September. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on what that plan is and what's the ultimate goal of that?
The ultimate goal of the plan is our numbers in the well field are kind of on that borderline limit. We're at 20 parts per million in the well field about, and if you take 80% of it and run it through the nano, it should get us there, but.
So we know our baseline,
Yeah, we know our
20.
baseline.
We're gonna run it through the nano.
Yep.
We're gonna see what comes out after that.
It's not really the nano that we're testing, it's really the it's really the ion exchange resins. Cause right now the ion exchange resins are geared toward color removal. We're gonna try to put some different resins in and see if we can get some additional removal from that too.
And it's the possibility is these other resins would do also more removal, is that what you're saying?
Correct, but then we would also have to possibly give up some color.
So it's not, I need to clear this up, it's not really correct to say that as originally designed, the treatment did not remove PFAS. It's that the treatment as designed may not get to a standard, which is 4 parts per million, but hasn't yet actually come into effect.
Correct.
And what the PC is saying is we need to look at this, because if you turn around, if this comes into effect, then we're gonna have to do more. And you're trying to find out how much more you might have to do to
Possibly.
meet this standard if it comes into effect, right?
Possibly, yeah. Some of it could be well field management. There are wells on site that are a lot higher than others. So again, they'll have to look at what is the trade-off in using this well versus this well, cause some wells are higher in color, some wells are higher in iron. So it'll be that kind of that balancing act.
Ralph,
So Peter,
It's my,
sorry,
it's my,
go off to Ralph.
okay.
it's my understanding that PFAS is, and this I'm going back a couple of years or so. The way to really target it or eliminate it is through the filtering process, which is able to remove a good portion or enough portion to make it meet the current codes.
Yeah, so the two leading choices for treatment are membranes and ion exchange.
Right.
We have both of them, but the ion exchange is geared toward color removal. So we don't do that.
Omar?
So Peter, way back when we talk about all this stuff for the plan, we had different options. One of the options was the 100% nanofiltration. This is another option, and this is the option that was picked. And it was picked for many different reasons at the time. The PFAS weren't really that big on the equation. But if you go 100% nanofiltration, then you have a lot of wastewater. There is a lot of waste that you gotta make up for. So
50%.
this was at the time,
Compromise.
the compromise, yeah.
So we don't know that we are going to have to do this extra treatment. We are, or amend the treatment somehow. We're trying to find out if that standard comes into effect, what we would need to do. And the question that follows from that is, should we get ahead of the curve and do this treatment just in case? After all, less PFAS is better than slightly more, right? So that's what we're really doing. It's not a given that what comes out of item, whatever it is there, last but one bullet, we are gonna have to do. Is that correct, Daniel?
Correct.
And they're probably gonna test different kind of membranes to see which is better for the PFAS.
We're gonna recreate
Yeah.
a mini version of the plant that we're building right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna recreate the nano part, we're gonna recreate the ion exchange part, and then we're gonna test over a period of time to see how much using well field, the highest PFAS well that's closest to where we're building it, which is well 32. It's by the turnpike. We're gonna pump a pipe, we're gonna run a pipe from that well all the way to the pilot skid. And we're gonna run tests for months and months and months to see what a mini version of the plant, how it's gonna react and how low we can actually get to. And based on that research and analysis, it might determine that if we run the plant at a slightly different ratio, right now it's designed for 70-30. Let's say if we run the ratio at 80-20, all of a sudden we meet the 4 ppm, PPT, right? We don't know any of this until we do it. And that's what's gonna start in September.
But what I think, bears saying is that relative to many other water utilities in the country, we're in a good position because
Way ahead.
we're building a brand new plant and we have the ability to tweak it to meet or get very close to the standard. Most other water utilities are nowhere close to being able to do that.
Maybe close.
James?
When you talked about developing your test system, was that part of the original plan of the plant to have that sort of mini No, okay.
No.
So, great idea, and hopefully you'll keep it.
The city gets to keep it. It's the cities at the end.
I mean, keep the test system, because things are gonna come forward.
Yeah, the city will
through
keep
time.
it.
Okay.
When we're done with it, the city paid for it. Yeah, we'll turn it over to
Is
Daniel.
that a change order to
It was.
Is anyone aware of any other emerging standards that might be coming out that we need to get our hands around, maybe ahead of?
Yes.
Malta?
Well, I can answer that question, but I'm not sure there was a question
I
coming on
figured you
that.
could, so go please.
So, yes, it is. Microplastics are next. And microplastics are being introduced through the membrane system. So installing membrane can be actually a wrong thing to do. And what I'm not saying this is a rule already, but they're part of the UCMR, which is the unregulated chemicals. So I'm only hoping for some time, because the industry, it is ever changing. We have a lot of regulations coming out, so I'm only hoping that administration would, get this under control and we know what we need to do within the next, couple of months or a year. But I do have a question for the contract. So obviously when the contract was signed, there was no PFAS as a safe drinking water standards. What was the wording on the contract? That does the company needs to meet current compliance and regulations and current as a dated of the full completion, or the current as a dated when the contract was signed?
Contract was signed, they have to meet obviously primary and secondary standards, but then the city also had additional things like color and iron that they wanted them to meet, so yes.
But I don't think that the city forgot about PFAS, because I can remember these being mentioned many times and, before 2023. It's just that we had to use a standard in the contract, and if the accepted standard didn't talk about PFAS, but I still believe that it was thought about in the overall analysis of what we were gonna do and who was gonna get the contract, et cetera.
Again, it was one of the reasons for going with nanofiltration and ion exchange, and in the Corolla report, there is a very brief sentence in there about this treatment scheme does remove PFAS, but it left it at that, cause we didn't know.
Yeah, this plant, let me be clear, this plant will remove PFAS. The question on the table is, will it remove it for PP?
Yeah.
Right, that's the real question on the table. It's gonna remove PFAS.
That is the question. Roosevelt?
As a staff, as we go down the road to completion, and so far I've heard several different change orders is gonna have to take place before the plant is completed. Who's bearing the cost?
That's money that has been set aside for the
There's various, so the actual plant got built from Series B funding, which was the base cost of the plant, that $385.
Right.
And then there was $160-something million accounted for the enabling works and infrastructure.
So that,
infrastructure
the
obligations.
enabling works takes part of all those, that's part of those change orders. That's what's accounted for, so the money's there.
Even if the White House decide not to do whatever it is that they're doing, it'll be there?
You mean to change the whole plan? That would be, that's not there. But like he said, the plan will remove PFAS.
That's probably unlikely,
Yeah.
but we don't know.
These days, anything is likely.
What I think we should do is proceed with the presentation.
Yes, I'm
We've
sorry.
knocked about half of it out already. Okay, and then some good news, the plat's getting recorded like any day now, so we'll have an official site, have an address.
Did I answer your question though?
Yes.
Yeah, and then we touched on a lot of these before, so the city enabling works were items in the contract that project company built on behalf of the city. Majority of those have been done. The only two remaining ones are the feedstock water main, which is in construction now, and then the water, sewer, and communication lines, which will be going into construction, I believe, in July.
And that was a contract that we let, or is that several contracts with different contractors?
No, these were transferred to project company via change order. Amendment then change order.
So the change order transferred this work from a city responsibility to the project company
Correct.
responsibility.
And all that money was already in the budget. So
We had to do it one way or the other.
and it's a lot easier having them build on their site than have another contractor come in and build. So. And then again, the city infrastructure obligation, these were those remaining items that were left with the city. They're pretty much all complete or will be complete soon. That photo on the right-hand side, the jack and bore that we did underneath the railroad in, I think it was late January. So the only other major things we have going on is the chemical, and then it's not on here, but the city does need to hire 18 new additional staff for the plant. Yes?
Daniel, I didn't wanna interrupt you if you need to finish your sentence.
Oh, that's it, just something else we're doing.
When it says product water transmission main in construction, that's carrying it from the water treatment plant to
Correct, so.
5-ash.
Yeah, so we'll skip ahead, so this is,
It's from the well, it's from the well field, I mean, it's from the treatment plant to the 5-ash.
yeah, so that's kinda how this project was broken up. That was awarded last January, and they're pretty much done with the majority of the pipe work. They got about 16,000 feet in, they only have about 1,000 left to go.
So awarded, but transferred to the project contractor.
This one was actually another unsolicited proposal by David Mancini and Sons. So this is not being done by the project company.
But it wasn't put out to bid.
It was unsolicited proposal and it was advertised for 30 days and nobody bid it.
Right. So effectively, it was put out to bid.
Yeah.
So,
Omar, does Tamarack get their water from Fort Lauderdale?
I don't think,
maybe a small portion,
Just a,
just a small portion, I think, yeah.
5 or 6 cities, I think.
a JV.
Okay.
this one's about done. And then just, I think the photos are gonna be more of a, talk about more what's actually going on the site, cause every time I go out there, there's another structure up there, there's another building, there's more equipment. But pretty much they bathtub the site down to elevation 0 and then built the site back up to 12. Most of the process equipment is on site and they have finished their first injection well, so. So last time I was here, I showed you guys this picture, this is that site, you know, gutted down to elevation 0 and it's just a bunch of conduit and piping. So that's, I think that was last October, August that we came to you. And then this is kind of where we're at now. If you look down here, this is kind of looking south, this is Prospect Road, this is Hawkins, this is where we have the groundbreaking, construction trailers, the admin buildings up, this is some of the pre-treatment over here. Sludge ponds. Then yeah, another view kind of looking east, you can see the airport, sulfuric acid tanks. And here, this is where the gasifiers and the ion exchange is right there. Completely transformed.
Yeah, it's looking from, like Prospect is on,
Yeah, that's looking east towards the airport.
yeah.
These were taken sometime in the past couple weeks. Again, that's the NF building with the skids on there.
And Daniel, you're saying at the end of the year?
The bulk of the construction is gonna be done. They'll be actually able to start putting water through the facility, so.
This is the true beauty of the P3, is that this could have never happened using the old method. The fact that this contract was signed in February of 2023, and we're already at this point, is everyone who comes to the site is amazed by how fast
I'm amazed, yeah.
Every utility, I have many utilities come and visit to see what's going on at the site, and they're all amazed. This is a humongous testament to the city of Fort Lauderdale and the P3 process.
Let me say this, P3s are different than P3s in the sense it takes a talent to make a P3 successful.
Then we have to have the right team.
Exactly.
But when you look at these photographs, etc., I mean, the degree of complexity, and you have to bring in different contractors for different things, you know, the coordination would be pretty nightmarish. I mean, it's possible, but
The city could never have done this.
so, you know, I have to agree. Daniel, more to say?
Maybe another one? Yeah, that's just kind of looking west, Sandview, and this is where the little transfer pump station is gonna go, and it connects to Kiwa's portion of 48-inch water. So this is, water goes that way east.
It's so amazing is all this piping is underground, you know,
Yeah.
you see those
It's gone.
early pictures and then you look at this, it's like, wow.
Where's the deep well injections?
That's the next photo.
Okay, I'm impatient, no.
Yeah, it's me. So that's one of the injection wells. They finished the first one a little while ago. Now they're working on the second one.
But if you go back, you can where it is on the site, because you
Yeah,
can't see where it is on the site from the previous picture.
Close to the water.
Yeah, it's back, all the way in the back, see the tower, the second
Yeah,
tower
I
in the
see, I
back.
see it now.
That's where it
In the
is.
western portion of the site.
Thank you.
That's really it.
Any other photos? That's it.
That's it.
Amazing.
So I have a question, or a standard question. What was the biggest unforeseen problem that you've come across so far? And what have you done to fix it?
I think it's been the unforeseen foreseens. PFAS and OCCT, to be honest. We knew these things were coming, we just didn't know when, and we didn't know how much it would be.
So they're not on-site problems, they're problems
Contractual problems,
to be imposed
yeah.
by the third party, right?
Yep. Well, not OCCT, that's just the city being proactive and not wanting to cause metal releases in our distribution system, so. That one is just as important as PFAS.
I would argue more.
Remind me, OCCT, please,
Corrosion control study,
on this one.
which is required after every time you change or add treatment process, so I would see this as a foreseen. I agree with that. That was something, if every time you change the treatment process,
Yeah.
you have to do corrosion control study for the dealer.
But again, you didn't really not foresee this, you know, those things were kind of out there.
It was in there, so the contract required project company to do a desktop study. But after the desktop study, it was recommended that a full pilot be done.
So, are we on time, on budget? You feel confident saying that?
Yep.
And is there anything that can happen between now and 99% that can,
The only thing would be is if we do go through this PFAS study and we determine that we cannot meet the 4 parts per trillion.
which is a very onerous standard, right, from what I understand?
Yes. So
So,
that'll be something the city will have to contend with. We can't meet it.
Rick?
So we said we're targeting September 26th to go into service.
Correct.
Will there be any noticeable difference to an end user from the water color, taste?
That's, yes, there's gonna be a transition period, we're not gonna turn 5-ash off and turn Prospect on in day one, it's gonna be crystal clear water. It's gonna take some time, but that's, I mean, the city did this back in 2008 with our other plant, Peel Dixie, it was a lime softening plant and they went to nanofiltration, so we're gonna be working with the communications team to get that message out there and be consistent.
And the water from the plant is clear, even though the pipes were very old. So, you know, before the water was
It's your
clear.
line.
Right.
That's Ralph's line. The water, it's gonna go through these old pipes.
you're gonna have clear water, but unfortunately, we have, or the city has, a lot of old cast iron pipes that are rusting away and then will unfortunately color the water. Everybody's saying, oh, we're gonna have clear water coming out of our faucet. Not if it has to go through enough of those cast iron rusty pipes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're looking at in this OCCT study. One of the pipe loops is gonna be, we're gonna attempt to go out into the distribution system and get actual pipe and test it through that. Cause really the whole goal of this OCCT is to really properly dose the corrosion inhibitor. And there's talks now of possibly, doing that within the next year or so that we're priming the system for it. So that when we do switch over, there's no.
That sounds encouraging.
Yeah.
I was figuring a decade or so.
But Ralph, that's what I was saying, when Bill Dixie was converted, I mean, now you got clear water, even though you had all rusty pipes. So there was a transition period, but eventually that water would be clear.
Right, decade or two, whatever it is to get and replace those. How aggressive the city will be in replacing those old rusty cast iron pipes.
So you'll run the newly treated water through just a test area to begin with somehow? Is that what you're saying?
For the whole system?
No, not for the whole system.
Your test system.
Oh, yeah,
Test.
so we're gonna replicate the new plant's water, we're gonna have 5-ash water going through it, and then we're gonna have Peel Dixie water going in through it too, because we do wanna see where those systems combine and what the effects are.
And that, will that water actually go into people's homes?
No, this is a pilot unit, it's completely enclosed, it's once we're done with it, it goes down the sewer.
It's only as good as the old test pipes that you're finding, right?
Correct, so we can't replicate everything 100% like lead. The main focus of the study was gonna be lead, but we don't really have any lead service lines. But we're still gonna test it because there is lead in your soldering and in some of the plumbing fixtures. So for stuff that we can't find in the field, we're gonna do a 6-month conditioning phase. So we're gonna actually put the pipe in water and let it acclimate to the natural scales from 5-ash.
Last question?
Yeah.
Daniel, are you projecting a ribbon cutting date?
September 2026, or maybe slightly after when the site's been, beautified.
It'll be similar to the groundbreaking ceremony outside.
So, this plant would be working together with the 5-wash, right?
With
5-ash?
5-ash? Or
No,
with the buildings?
No, it's gonna be with Peel Dixie.
Okay.
Yeah. 5-ash is only gonna be a storage and distribution facility.
Okay, so and the blends is gonna happen in the distribution system?
Correct.
So,
And there are other things that we're doing, by the way, at 5-ash to improve the
Yeah, so we had a couple, so the comprehensive agreement talks about doing improvements at 5-ash. It's not very specific. It was mainly towards the high service pumps, but then we also had these other projects at 5-ash to replace pretty much the entire electrical system.
Yeah.
So we did a study about a year and a half ago to look at, should we rehab the facility or just build a new pump station? It came out to be approximately the same cost, so one of the side projects that's not really involved with this is the new high service pump station.
So all the diesel generators, everything that are on the old plant, they're all gonna be, new and all that. So the whole distribution system is gonna be upgraded.
So work's going to get done or is being done at 5-ash as well?
Yeah. That's part of the enabling work.
It's a very impressive project. Anybody else got any questions?
yes,
Well done.
I still do. The contract value, your slide number 2 is showing 411 million.
Yeah.
Is that the final price including the change orders? Because your next slide is showing us 6 change orders.
Yeah.
So, and I think there was 666 million awarded, so it's kind of not clear why we're talking for the.
Correct, so some of that so the 385 goes, or is it 367? That 100% of that goes to project company, so that's just to play for the plant. But then there's that other 160 million that some of it does go to project company for things like the booster pumps. One of the first major things we did when the project got kicked off was design pretty much an additional pre-treatment system and there was a contract cap of, I think, 52 or $53 million in there. So some of that 160 comprised that 47 that we ended up paying to project company for this pre-treatment system. And then
The total is 666, that is the total,
So
right?
the contract value is 411. It's here in the slide.
that's today's contract value with change orders.
With the change orders.
Yeah, to date.
Okay. So one of the questions like, are we on the track financially? Looks like, and that's what I'm trying to find out. So the 666 million was actual award last year in February 2023, right?
Correct, that was what was approved. Yes,
And the city finance 75% of that, right?
correct.
So those 6 change orders for the corrosion control study, the pretreatment booster pumps, all this on the next slide, do you have the value for those change orders
Yes,
collected?
yeah. I have a very nice spreadsheet or very nice thing that shows everything broken out. I can send that to you guys.
Is that exceeding the award price?
No.
6, okay, so you guys use contingency
Yeah.
to cover the change orders?
There were some things in there, like, for instance, Florida Power and Light. We had no idea what they're gonna make us build. It ended up being not a lot. So
Okay.
so a bunch of that money could be used for other things.
Okay, well, good, that's a good news,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there was not additional funds, okay,
And those
thank you.
change orders are 100% city, right?
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure, because I think I asked this a number of times, but I just wanted to make sure that the 48-inch connecting line from the well field to Five Ash, that there is also a second line. We already went through, or the city already went through a problem a few years ago when we had to get the contractor to go put a large plug into the
Tree limb.
tree limb, so there will be 2 in case something happens.
There is a CIP put in to rehab one of the existing raw water lines.
Okay, so you're gonna use
There's 2 of them, so
the
they're gonna clean it, probably line it.
concrete, reinforced concrete.
Yeah, one of them's ductile, one of them's concrete, so we'll have to decide which one.
Thank you.
I have a question about, basically it's going to be, city staff are going to operate this, right?
Correct.
And so is there any special training, how is the transfer, the acclimation of city staff to the new plant? How will that happen, just broadly?
So broadly, we have a schedule in the comprehensive agreement that says when those staff need to be there to start training. So the first staff members, which are the operators, and I think the safety officer need to be there in January 2026.
But Peter, a lot of these people that are gonna go to the new plant, there are existing city employees
Yes.
at the Five Eyes, so they're gonna have the opportunity to go to the other plant.
Yeah, so they're kind of,
Yeah.
they're around it.
Transition into that, yeah. But-
We're gonna train.
Yeah.
This is a very unique contract where we're gonna use the same employees,
Yes,
and so we're gonna train them. It's gonna be great.
That was one of the drawbacks on the other P3s where they lost, the city folks or the folks lost their job, they brought in other people and but, yeah.
So if, for instance, there is a employee that is not working to their satisfaction, the city is responsible to replace that employee. So we do the HR
Work
hiring
together.
and all that, yeah.
Gotcha.
That's part of the contract.
I'll try to shape up better, no.
well, okay, so anybody got anything else?
One last question about ongoing communication to the general public about progress of the project. This has been a great update. do we have a communication schedule in place? Like once every 6 months, we try to release something here?
Our PIO group's been pretty good about reaching out about every 6 months and getting an update. It
Yeah,
goes
we
on
had
the
a
website.
presentation, we have presentations on
City
the
Presented city
commission meeting
commission,
once in a while.
city commission you
Yeah.
present, but then.
Yeah, we're actually doing an update to the commission next month, June
But
June
see,
2nd.
here's the point. The water bills are going up, we know why, it's associated with this. So people are complaining about how much the water bills are going up. But they don't see and know about this. And people will be amazed that this is going on there. So I feel like somehow, probably through the neighbourhoods, the city should reach out and tell people the degree of progress that's been made on a brand new water plant. Because it's at the moment it's all one-sided, our water bills are going up. People don't quite understand why. But when you see these photographs, you can see where the money's going. Jim?
Great idea, but you know what?
It doesn't-
People can,
It doesn't
people can
work.
watch the city commission on
It doesn't.
YouTube, they can come to see the meetings. I think they need, if they're gonna have some kind of public presentation, like the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations, give a presentation to that group. Those are representatives from every neighborhood that belongs to the organization. They can filter it back, they can reach out to you, and if they want something special for the
Yeah,
neighborhood.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, excellent job, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
nice to
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
We'll have another one in 6 months if you guys want.
It's finished.
Very good, thank you.
Finish a product.
Thank you, very impressive.
I'm not a opinion. I would-
Makes me wanna be an engineer.
Who would want to be an engineer?
Who would want,
It's a chart.
you have to be so smart to do this stuff, I mean, like.
Well,
Or a project manager?
if you look at the
He's good.
if you look at the attendees from the staff from the last time, and pretty much they're all here, they've all got letters after their name.
Yeah, it's impressive.
All right, so the next item is the old business of the discussion of ITF. So where we are with that now is we passed the motion. That is on the city commission conference agenda tomorrow. So I intend to go, what is actually on the agenda is the entire minutes from our last meeting, which we just formally approved, and up front is the motion that we passed. So I asked for this to be on the agenda again, so I could brief you on that and the fact that I intend to go, unless somebody else desperately wants to go, because there can't be more than one of us there.
Well, we can be there, we just can't talk.
But yeah, and plus
We will
it's
watch.
noticed in all the commission meetings that several committee members, and it doesn't name committee, the committees may be present. So it's nothing wrong with all of us being at there. Now, they usually have a designated speaker.
Yeah.
And that eliminate that, but we can all be there.
But only one person can speak, right, or else it becomes a meeting. We've had this discussion.
Well, wait a second. If you're speaking at city commission, that's on the record, it's being recorded. And if it's a meeting, is it a joint meeting or is it just a
I'm just talking about, this item is on tomorrow's agenda, so it's not been noticed.
What is the item, how's it worded?
It basically says, it's under communications to the city commission.
Okay,
And it says
okay, yeah.
communication
So only
from
one.
the
It's not a
infrastructure
meeting.
task force, and attached to the item is our minutes from last meeting with upfront the motion that we passed. So all they're gonna look at, in all likelihood, is the upfront motion.
And the motion was to ask for the meeting.
The motion was to ask them to meet with us to discuss the future of the ITF, basically.
Okay,
So I'm only going there in case they have questions.
Well, I'm gonna be there.
Okay. So,
I promise not to talk.
I would
Our grimace.
probably be there depending on where it happens along the agenda, you know, they never on time.
well, it's up front.
It's a conference
It's
meeting.
a conference meeting,
Yeah,
and it's
no,
the first item on the agenda.
Oh, it
okay,
can be done.
unless they move it, but
Unless they move it.
because we also got to deal with the recommendation for the city attorney, which is also on tomorrow's meeting. And I'll be there for that. Well, now, when you was talking about speaking, you can speak provided you notify the commission, and I always make sure that the attorney is involved also. Now, I'm Roosevelt, yes, I sit on this committee, but right now, I'm talking. And I'm talking as a resident, not as a committee member. And usually, if you get that understanding and you get the attorney to back you,
We tried that.
I know,
Yeah.
I've tried it, it worked,
Not
the other
working.
time it didn't work.
No, it's not working.
So, okay, so Peter, so what's, you sent the whole packet that you're looking at today, including the slides and all that stuff. You got all that.
No, all they got, memory serves me, looked at it 24 hours
Just the
ago.
meeting.
They just got the meeting minutes.
So what about the
They did not get the
attachments,
attachments.
the draft?
They did not get the attachments.
They did not.
They did not.
Okay,
So it just references the fact that we had a discussion, minutes reference the fact that we had a discussion about what should go to the commission. And that's the other reason why I put the item on the agenda, is on the assumption that there's three possibilities that could happen. They could say, we're not interested in meeting and we think it should just sunset and go away. Or they could say, you understand the question, what is it you want? Peter, can you summarize that? That's another possibility. Or they could say, we agree to have a meeting. And if they agree to have a meeting, which I think is a joint meeting, which I think is the most likely outcome, then we should decide what we want to put in front of them. It could be some or all
Okay.
of the attachments that we
Perfect.
considered last time.
perfect. I'm ready to discuss now. I understand what you're doing.
So the reason part of the reason for being on here, suppose they say to me, well, we're very busy, we can't see it giving you time to do this for many months. Why don't you just tell us on behalf of the ITF would you like me to say it is our recommendation that you create a board? Do we have enough consensus for me to be able to say that? The alternative is to say, we strongly recommend a board, but if you don't want to create a board, then we recommend you reauthorize us for at least another 2 years.
So I would say we recommend that you, whatever the term is, the action word here, is you change the committee into a board. I wouldn't get into the alternatives, because that's like we're negotiating.
No, but they may bring those up. They may say, we don't have time to meet with you, but
Well,
9
what's the
months.
urgency of this being turned into a board?
The urgency is
We can
that
meet in
this group
September.
is going to sunset at the end of the year.
Yes, so that's 6-8 months from now.
Yes,
So,
well, yeah.
so there is no urgency to have a meeting right away, in my opinion, so
No.
to say, if they say, well, can we have the meeting in September? Yeah, sure, that works. And then we can prepare the documents, because we have the documents really almost complete.
Well, I'm glad you think that, so we can come back to these documents. And what we have is a nice summary that I wrote up what I feel like doing, and we have Martha's, effectively a letter, a formal letter making the case, and actually a draft, ordinance as well.
Right.
I'm really not sure that we need to give them a draft ordinance, because I feel like we're stepping on the
That's
toes of
somebody else's
the
job.
city attorney.
Yeah, that's someone else's job. I took the liberty of rewriting your notes. And changed it into like a cover letter. And this is beautiful, beautiful work, I think. Just 2 edits I would make. 3 counting, taking out the paragraph about the ordinance. We have stuff to give them, so
We do.
I think we're all set. I think we just go in front and you say what you wanna, say what you're gonna say and see what they say.
But
I
if
wouldn't
we
get into
meet
the-
with them, then we need to give them something. And I think we're saying we give them the piece I wrote, right, probably with your edits, James.
Can I pass these out? Am I
Yes.
allowed to do that?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Can I pass
As
some
long,
out?
as long as you give a copy to the,
So pretty much everything you wrote, I just put it in.
Thank you, sir. I might mention, we have a District 1 pre-agenda meeting tonight
Yeah.
with Commissioner Gross. Know if we just sit quiet,
Yeah, I think so.
or make a
no, I think it's it.
quiet, be my, if we go with many end runs.
You want one? You guys get one. I have electronic.
Okay, can you send it to me?
It's on the agenda, right? It's on the agenda, right, Peter?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's on the conference agenda.
Yeah.
Under communications to the
Right.
city commission.
Yeah.
So I took what you'd written, Peter, and made it to like a cover letter for the
Yeah.
letter that Marta wrote. And there was only 2 changes to Marta's, well, 3. You want me to wait a minute while everybody reads this?
Yes, please. I wrote to let you into my secret, I wrote a full page, then I ran it through ChatGPT and it emerged with.
You saying that in your defense?
I'm saying, don't run it through ChatGPT or it'll come just out like that.
Is seawall covered by the stormwater improvement program? Because we have discussed seawall a few times. So is that a part of the improvement program?
No. Seawalls are another separate thing.
She's presented, we've had presentations
Yeah.
on it.
So should we add that?
We've not been
Sidewalks.
included in any seawall
I
discussion.
think they've got their program set up based on different areas where the level of the tides get up higher.
That one was the private
No, I understand the
company.
program, but it's something we
But
provide
they've
oversight.
got a program already kind of in.
With the private county, remember? They kind of passed the ordinance for the seawall, private county.
Okay,
Yes, but we have, it's true, what Greg says, we have had presentations on seawalls and sidewalks. So you could say that we've received presentation and given input on various city capital infrastructure projects, including seawalls. If this doesn't already effectively say that.
It was 45, not one.
45 foot, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that covers.
Yeah, that would cover it, right? So maybe we need an extra thing here in H that says,
Action word, use an action word.
and we also had a review of the city database program,
the,
what was that called?
yeah, the,
Asset management,
yeah,
Asset management.
asset management.
but that was for the water distribution system upgrades, that was through consent order.
Well, no, the one was just the database
Yeah, we
itself,
did have a, it's
right?
true.
And so there, and then we also, is City Hall on here? There it is.
No, but I think it is on here, right?
Yes, city gathering
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, and under the heading of major projects.
Yeah.
So we can say, as an additional bullet, we can say, monitored, we could say,
What is the name of that city database I can't remember.
City Works.
yes.
CityWorks, so we could just add CityWorks to after treatment
I
plan?
have a good memory.
We do an H that says, provided input, has that, provided input on in inverted commas, 45 Fort Lauderdale, right, Martha? That's the
Yes.
generic program. 45 Fort Lauderdale, that would be an additional bullet. And another additional bullet could be,
I would just under F,
Yeah.
after treatment plan, put comma CityWorks program.
but CityWorks is
Asset management.
is a tool
Yeah.
to
Map.
map and monitor the condition of all the city's infrastructure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So-
the GIS and asset management.
Yeah. So maybe we do gave input to city's GIS and management programs. Yeah. Okay, well, I'd be happy with that. That gets us to H, G.
We go to Z.
So you think, James, that this would go to the commission together with Martha's letter,
Right,
but not the draft ordinance?
right, I think, like you said, the ordinance really is somebody else's responsibility and we don't wanna step on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
So Marta has a paragraph in here that's enclosed for your review. I would eliminate that entire paragraph. We need to take Mike Lambert's name off of the committee at the end, he's no longer on infrastructure.
So you've made edits, so we're all on the same page. The Martha's draft, that is,
Take off Mike's name then.
Yeah,
I'm striking out the paragraph.
Yep.
Starts with enclosed for your review and ends with best practices.
take that all out.
Take that whole paragraph out, 'cause it's all about the ordinance. And the only other change I would recommend is that, on paragraph 2, it says originally established in 2017 as a temporary advisory body. I would strike the word body and say committee.
okay.
Paragraph 2.
Otherwise, this is
Right.
fantastic.
Yeah. I agree.
This,
It was originally established as an advisory
committee.
I don't think it really was a task force, I thought, that's why we got the name task force from.
Really, or that's what it was?
No, it was, let me see, they, now, they started to, they inserted, let's say,
There was, we have it here up front. Task Force Advisory Committee,
they
Resolution
inserted advisory.
1746.
They inserted advisory, probably Roosevelt remembers.
Advisory Committee.
Yeah, Task Force Advisory Committee, right? So that's the full title.
Full name, yeah.
So we could drop that, we could just make that, so we could just keep that as advisory committee, that seems fine.
They inserted that, I don't know if that was in 19 or.
So instead of body,
2020 when I started.
advisory committee as that.
Right. That's,
Have you made any PowerPoint graphics or anything to go with this?
No,
Big dollar sign, no.
I sort of had envisioned like a circle where, you know, where water, sewer, stormwater, seawall, city, and other, and our job is to continuously go around that circle to make sure that those programs are all monitored.
And that sounds good. And I agree, but you know, we'll work in putting that together. But most of the commissioners, if not all of them, are pretty familiar with this now. Three at least of them brought this into being in the first place. And one of them was a staff person at the time it came into being as Commissioner Herbst. So they're fairly familiar with this.
Okay.
What we're asking them to do is to consider, it was set up as a temporary thing somewhat in response to a crisis that I don't have to go through again. And with all we've learned here, we're saying to them, we think there's a role to make this permanent, even though you set this up with temporary in mind. And then once you say those kind of things, the commission will take it whichever way they want to go.
Great.
That's how it works. So, okay, so with those changes then, and the rewrite of other piece that we discussed, in principle, that's what we would ask if and when we get a joint meeting. We would ask the city clerk to provide that material to the city commission as background for their joint discussion, right?
That's right. I don't know anybody else. That's right.
But if they say to me alone, well, I take your point, James. If they say, well, we can't meet with you soon, you say, your point is, I agree. Well, it doesn't matter if we don't meet until October or something to finalise this, right?
I'd say September.
No, but you know, if they're looking at their calendar and
Yeah.
there's no.
We are gonna meet them this summer. I doubt they would squeeze us in June.
Yeah.
So, and then they're gone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they'll be back sometime late August and they're not gonna see us right then, so probably September.
So let me ask.
What do you think, Marty?
I agree with you, but I'm glad that we're putting this up front early enough so they can manage the calendar if they want to meet with us.
Yes, and that's why we're doing it. You know, Marilyn had the foresight to see this coming. Samili, we've just made a couple of alterations to what you provided here. If I hand those over to you, can you finalize and work those up, you know, just make those additions?
She asked me for the electronic version of what
Oh,
I
you
did.
did? So you have
I have a paper
James.
copy of James's
Have a copy of
document. I
James's.
I'm sorry, yeah,
You want me to send the electronic still?
I prefer it, yes.
Yeah.
And then
Shoot the rest.
She has the
other-
electronic.
so you have the other piece. We removed a paragraph and we made one change to whatever it was, paragraph 2.
Take out Mike's name.
Well, could you do that, Marta? Maybe
Yeah.
that's a bit, so Marta will make that change because she has the originating document.
That's fine.
So she'll make that change, those changes, and she'll email you that. So you'll have that one, and James will email you the one he
And
handed to
this
you.
document is replacing the one that you sent to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Unless I run it through ChatGPT.
So,
So the
Marta?
document that James created, we're adding age.
Yeah, we're adding
So
two, we're
who's
adding.
gonna do that?
You can do that, James?
what do you want?
Can you add,
We're adding another bullet, age,
this is what I wrote.
Oh, yeah, let me,
providing input.
can I take this?
Yes.
Okay.
So James will make the additions to his document. Marta will make the addition to one of
We'll send them
her
in.
document. We'll send them to you.
And I'll send it to
And
you.
then, well, we wait and see what the commission says tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then if they say, we'll meet the last meeting in, well, the last meeting before, summer break is,
June 8th, July 8th. Is it July 8th?
no, it's, we're gonna come to this anyway, but so if it's imminent, we'll need those documents to be disseminated. I mean, David, city clerk, will say, what does the ITF want to put in front of the city commission, and it'll be those documents, alright? But if they say we can't meet until September, then we'll meet again at least 2 more times before then anyway.
And once I receive the edited documents, would the committee like to receive a digital copy of those just for record? Do you guys want it disseminated to you after I receive the edited copy?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be best,
Okay.
yes please. Okay. So we have a plan like that.
thank you, Peter.
Alright, so we've done 2 and 3. CIP financial report, who's gonna do that? You could say. Please keep it quiet.
So my apologies, I believe the CIP is only done quarterly now and I didn't remove the document off the agenda.
Okay,
I think you guys had it the last meeting.
yes,
So,
that's right.
Okay.
So the next one is water and sewer rates.
It looks like we have 2 of each. At the bottom, it says no sewer main breaks, but I think I see 2 in here and in the map. So can we go to
Breaks? No, I don't think so. Does anyone wanna look at the map? It's here anyway.
I don't think so. That's fine.
okay,
Between 2, didn't seem.
yeah.
Any root
Gravity
cause
block.
that need to be addressed?
I think that's why they said no breaks. Because there was just flat, there was just overflow, there was just
There's
SSO.
just emergency, it is, the water says emergency repairs, it could be, like a pipe fail or
The valve's leaking.
valves leaking, nobody has struck a pipe lately, so that's not it, yeah.
Somebody's digging
I
it.
got a question.
Ralph?
Omar, I know I'm a pain in the neck and I've only been doing this for, since 2017. About the sanitary sewer gravity mains. I mean, I think this is an area, and I haven't changed my position on this. And it's, those old pipe are still deteriorating. And the fact that the longer you wait, you won't be able to utilize inserting or lining the pipe to try to salvage that old pipe. And if, cause I'm seeing that there's gonna be more breaks and it's gonna be past that ability to salvage the existing pipe before they totally break up and, they fail in the bottom of the pipe with the sand and all that stuff. But is there any hope that an evaluation can be made to try to salvage the existing pipe by lining them as opposed to having to go back later and tearing up the streets and everything to replace them with a whole brand new pipe, which is a lot more expensive and of course it's more.
Isn't it the I&I project that's going on right now?
But you're talking about force mains, or are you talking about?
You're talking about
You're talking
gravity.
about force mains, or are you talking
No,
about just?
no, the gravity sewers.
So, we're doing a lot of I&I
Huge
projects
project.
right now.
Okay.
How many basins are we doing, Brandy? What's the total
How many basins are we doing?
with the new program with the I&I?
Well, I mean, it depends on our budget. We're planning,
No, but what is the plan, how many basins total?
it does depend on the budget. We've got priority 1, 2s and 3s. I'll have to look it up, but I wanna say there's maybe 54 we started with, but it's been expanded since then.
So, I mean, we have this big program right now, and the issue is money. So we have about 20 million every year for the next 5 years to do I&I. And the total amount, I think we calculated like a few hundred million to do everything that we need to do.
But what
Where's
Ralph is saying is, what I think you're saying, Ralph, is that some pipes are probably getting to the stage where you can't line them.
Right.
And
It's not a
Yes.
constant, it's
Yeah.
not a constant, it's a variable.
Right,
So as a function of time, your ability to line the pipes is diminishing.
right,
so
so
would
the
it be
way,
better to proactively go out there and
but
look
they're
for more?
prioritizing those basins, that's what the program is, so those that you're talking about are probably gonna be first, then the ones that are in better shape, but go ahead, Brenda.
So the program isn't just lining, it is a mix of repairs. We're working on lining, we're working on point repairs, we're working on manhole rehab. So there's a number of things involved in the program.
So, and of course, you have replacement because some pipes have already
Right.
reached their diminishing of the end part that they have
So
to be replaced.
the point repairs will cover some sections, so I mean, I can't really comment on the full extent, because, you know, once it gets too large of an area, that may just be, you know, a project in and of itself, and depending on money, but we do have point repairs that can cover new replacement.
Well, I've served my purpose here today for another month or two before I be a pain in the neck again, no, but
No,
I haven't
These are-
tried
these
to
are
bring
all-
it up, but
yeah,
I know the city does have
These
a
are all valid
program.
questions, but if you remember when we did the conservative basins, there were 6 of them, we lined the whole basin. Right now, what Brandy's trying to explain is that we're doing point repairs, we're analyzing what needs to be fixed in which way. So it's a more efficient way to doing it. On the consent order, we had to do the whole thing, so we didn't have a choice.
Okay, well, and
So
the
we're-
money is a constraint as well, so it's,
We're evaluating, we're doing smoke testing, we're doing CCTV in targeted areas, and we're doing manhole inspections, night flow testing and night flow isolation, to see which areas have the most INI, and then the most critical areas are the basins that we're focusing on first.
okay, that sounds like a great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next is general discussion and comments, committee members. I have a couple of things, anybody else have anything, James?
Couple city commission meetings ago, there was a great presentation by Hazen and Sawyer about the providing an objective review of data to make decisions about who the next neighborhoods are going to be in the stormwater management program. And there was a little bit of discussion among the city commissioners. How did that get left, Omar? Do you know what the next step is? Are they?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Roberto Bencourt, so we took the, I guess, the direction of the commission. So we put more emphasis, I guess, towards the FEMA, and not so much, residents' input. And there was a few other factors. We're just balancing the percentage of weight. So Hazen's actively ranking, if you would, the priority based on other criteria. And we're going back to commission conference June 2nd with our findings, yep.
And is the goal then to present the revised data with an actual prioritization list?
Correct, with the recommended list from the consultant based from a purely engineering standpoint. But ultimately it will be up to the commission on how it's ranked.
So none of the subjective or anecdotal information provided by residents is not included in there?
No, it is.
It is.
It's just
But
a weight
different
factor,
percentage.
yeah.
It's a
So
weight,
say-
yeah.
So say 70% is the objective data that
Mhm.
Hazen and Sawyer has developed versus, and then there's a 30% neighborhood input.
Something like that, yeah,
I don't know what the percentages are, but that's what you're doing.
correct,
And that's June 2nd.
correct.
Okay, that's answers my question, first question, alright, thank you. On my cover letter, I said that the commissioners extended tenure for another year. Is January 2026 the correct, or is it February 2026?
I'm not sure. It's February? February 2020,
Okay.
that's when we expire.
Okay, And then my third was, we talked about canceling a meeting this summer, Peter.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that, talk
Okay.
about the dates, so, Lindsay,
Question was for
I'm
gentleman there.
Roberto.
Roberto, I was curious, are you still gathering the information or do you kind of have an idea of what areas are coming up? Based off
far
of
as the
FEMA
order?
findings, yes.
We have the data, they're redoing the analysis based on the direction of the commission with the different weighting factors. So I haven't got that back from the consultant yet, so I'm not sure where that landed yet.
But you're asking if we still gathering data from the residents?
No, we're not
You
gathering
said
any more data.
FEMA,
Oh, FEMA, okay,
so I was curious what areas are next
okay.
based off that data.
Yeah.
How many, in this weighting, how many neighborhoods are you dealing with?
Well, broadly, it's 17 neighborhoods, but there's pieces of adjoining neighborhoods that they touch, though mostly it's 17 neighborhoods, so that'll end up being 12 projects. So the goal is to have 4 projects come out at a time, and then while that's in design, you go on along, then construction begins, but then we start designing the next phase, overlapping, so that's kind of how the program's set up. Take about 10 years to do.
So this is the 17 projects are in, what was it called, phase 2?
Phase 2, yeah, it's 12 projects, 17 neighborhoods.
12 projects, 17 neighborhoods, because of the overlap.
Well, some neighborhoods, they're
Grouped them together.
hydraulically already next to each other, it makes sense to group them together.
So that may be 2 neighborhoods.
Or some of them are even 3, yeah, depending on the size of the neighborhood.
And you'll be going back with, what you suggest is the priority list for those 17, well,
12 projects.
the projects that 17 neighborhoods fall in, right?
Correct, and then we'll see if the commission wants to slide a neighborhood up or down, you know.
You're thinking that there will be 4 projects per year that will be progressed. Is that
Yeah, it'll
right?
be 3 groups of 4 projects.
3 groups of 4 projects.
Correct.
So that may not be necessary per year, those 3 groups of 4 projects, did you say? So those 4 projects might take 4 years or something?
Yeah, 3-ish, 3.5 years, yeah. So we'll try to start them 4 at a time. And there'll be overlap as we go down the years. So the goal is, it's gonna take 10 years to complete the 12 projects.
So I think that after you've done that presentation and get the sign off of the commission, whatever order they decide, we'd probably like to see that as well, wouldn't we? Yeah, sure.
Well, we should have seen the presentation that they already gave, that would have been better,
I tend to agree with you.
but, here we are.
So when you get done with the commission, when you go back to the commission?
June 2nd, I mean, we'll have, it'll be a published presentation with all the findings.
So we won't meet again before we go to the commission. But I'd still like to see it, and others feel, I'd still like to see it afterwards, I think. It's kind of important. People are,
When are they gonna be done with the presentation, Robert?
Well, they're still working on it. Obviously, the sooner I get it, the better. But I don't have it yet.
well, if we're seeing it after the commission, then it sort of doesn't matter within limits how soon we see it, because we can't really influence it much at that point. But, you know, we'd like to see it when it's finalised, the commission has decided, and, you know.
So it'll be published like a week, like the Wednesday or
Yeah.
Thursday?
It'll be on the commission agenda.
Yeah,
But we can only have input as individuals then.
yeah,
We have to write to the commissioner and say, I don't agree with X and Y.
right.
I'm gonna need it, cause my neighbors are gonna come looking for me.
One more thing, on the Fortify Zoom, there was discussion of seawalls, are you guys discussing that at all or strictly
You mean from the last meeting that we had?
the one that, yeah?
Typically, the only seawalls we would be affecting are ones directly, as a direct result of an outfall that we're constructing.
Which there's a few, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean,
But to rebuild seawalls, that's probably what you're thinking, like redo whole seawalls, that's not part of it.
That part.
But
I didn't think so,
Lindsay, are you talking about the presentation that we got on the
It was like
Victoria
2
Park
months
plan?
ago. No,
The
well,
last
it-
meeting.
That was last meeting.
that was different, but it was a part of the overall.
Because what was said at that meeting, somebody said, well, there's the, I've forgotten the name of that development now. And it was suggested that they should be approached with a view to raising their seawalls to bring them in line with the cities, but Dr. Gassman wrote us an email and basically said, well, they are already the same height as the city's seawall, so there's nothing to be gained there really.
This was the fellow that was, said that his neighborhood was always being worked.
No, this
It was a
was,
church.
this was,
Was it church?
was it you, Greg, that was talking about that development on the corner there?
Yeah.
And you said, well, if we're raising a seawall, where the
Yeah,
pump
so
station
if we're
gonna
changing
be?
the public seawall height,
Yeah.
are they aware that they need to change the private seawall height?
But
And we
but
weren't
they're
sure.
the same, apparently.
If they're the same, then that's it.
All right, now on the subject of that then,
You asked
one
about,
thing we'd like to see,
you asked about the number of basins for the INI. So in the priority ones, we have 21 basins, and priority twos, we have another 60 basins, and then.
60,
Mhm.
60?
Yeah, 21 in priority one, and 60 total in priority twos.
Wow.
And then we have a priority three grouping, but it depends on how the
And
basins.
that's subject to tweaking by the city commission?
Well, we're trying to do it by the most critical versus, not instead of like, hey, my house is most important, but whatever basin is the most critical, and we've done extensive testing to determine what that is so that the city can get the most bang for its buck to make a difference at the plant.
That's for a gravity sewer.
Okay, so that's something that we may see, that listing, a priority list. Are there any other subjects, topics that members want to have a presentation on to this group? Take the rest of the year off then.
We've had, oh, today?
Go on, sorry, James.
When did Karen come to talk about sidewalks? When Karen Waffle come to talk to us about sidewalks?
When we last heard about sidewalks was a while ago.
A while ago? Maybe it wasn't
that long.
Was it
I
not?
don't remember.
Jill, do you have anything to do with sidewalks now?
I do, but we do, Public Works does the maintenance and the repair of sidewalks, not the new sidewalk connections that Karen from TAM was referring to.
Oh, that's right, she's Tam, you got, sorry.
So you want something on sidewalks again, James?
I don't know, it's just where is that? Where are we with that? They were gonna, maybe it's too soon.
I'd like to ask or inquire, if it hasn't already been determined, if the sidewalks, generally, we're talking about neighborhoods with 5-foot wide sidewalks. And they used to come in real thin, but now I think the code is requiring 6-inch thickness. And in addition, the concrete strength has been increased so that somebody's parking on the swale, runs over the sidewalk, it doesn't break up the sidewalk as likely. I just wanted to verify the standards for sidewalks have strengthened as far as the new sidewalks going in. The only problem I see in some of the neighborhoods is that some of them have like 3.5 or 4 foot wide sidewalks, some even narrower. And, they never will become the 5-foot standard unless they do a whole job of the sidewalks. And some people are pretty much concerned about that.
I could tell you, because my neighbor had his completely redone, wider and thicker.
Yeah,
They did a
well,
nice
let's
job,
meet the current standard.
they did a nice job. I tell you, in Victoria Park, where there's a sidewalk and there's not a sidewalk. Yeah, and then there's not a sidewalk and there's a sidewalk, and then there's no way to get on to the road from the sidewalk.
That's Karen though, that's not Public Works.
Yeah, so you think it's a bit premature to have Karen back, James?
I don't know, I mean, I don't know, yeah, let's have her back.
You guys want to do that?
Yes, please, that's something for the next,
I don't remember
next
when
meeting or
Bridges before sidewalks.
Bridges before sidewalks.
In my memory, we talked about bridges a longer time ago than we talked about sidewalks.
Should we here talk about bridge versus tunnel, is that what you're suggesting?
So sidewalks, Lindsay, you had a question?
I think I asked, but correct me, do we ever speak with FDOT? Do you remember anything? Why not?
Last time we did was for the tunnel.
Sometimes, have we never had any kind of presentation from FDOT? Sometimes they have a project that they're just trying to get the word out on, and they'll present, or they're a partner in some form with the city.
They came in and gave us a minor presentation on the tunnel rebuild.
Yeah, they were very involved with tunnel
Yeah.
versus
SCADA
train.
on the tunnel.
FDOT has to put in some
Yeah.
constraints on keeping the trucks, those high profile trucks going in. I don't think anybody that's familiar with it, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually under like tunnels and of course in parking facilities, they have a constraint where a truck too high will hit that.
What are you worried about, or what are you concerned with, Lindsay? Which roads? Well, so which ones? Cause DOT is only a couple roads.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Is
The
like,
You have one in particular or just all the major?
well. Okay.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just feel like when these projects are built, everything gets cut out and then they patchwork instead of like layover. So I've had flat tires, I've been sitting on my rim, I've gone through it and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
So they have certain requirements when building back the roads, and I know Roberto can speak highly to this, but you're required to go a certain length every time they do a curb cut, or a road cut. They don't always do that.
Can we like
I don't know that we
enforce
have any say.
their correction?
It's pretty substantial, but I don't think it falls within the purview of this committee necessarily. Because
But even to
FDOT
be on the
is
same
outside of Fort Lauderdale. So they're their own operating entity.
And you have the county as well.
And the
Correct.
county, so you got the state and you got the county and then the city. So another example is 18th Street where I live, it's where they put the new force main in. And we thought they were gonna recover the whole road, they didn't, they patched it and it's a mess.
It's a
And we
mess.
complained, but there's nothing can be done.
There is a standard, I might add, that if you're put in a force main or whatever in
One side.
one lane, you have to do the whole lane.
Yeah, but you don't have to do both lanes.
And
Right.
but the city is requiring both lanes,
No, only if you
do it
affect
in
both
one
lanes.
lane, you only have to redo that lane.
because I know the county, who I worked for about 18 years, their requirement was, if they put a force main in, you just can't put a patch in there, you gotta do the complete lane.
If it's in the middle of the road, but if it's on one side, then you only do that lane.
Yeah, that lane, correct, we're saying the same thing.
So I'll get Roosevelt, I'll get you in a moment, Roosevelt, but I have to provide some quick context. So Department of Transportation looks after the most important roads. Broward County looks after the slightly less important roads, and the city looks after all the others. So you're dealing with three bodies with three, possibly three different standards. Now, there was a time, and maybe Jill can weigh in on this, when, at least on certain excavations, the city was back filling it with, I think, flowable fill, so that it didn't sink. Do you have any recollection of that going on?
When we, during the waterworks, if we found a pipe greater than 6 inches that was abandoned, we would be required to put flowable fill in that before we restored the whole sub base and the top surfaces when we restored the trench.
And flowable fill is weak, very weak concrete, so it shouldn't sink nearly as much.
No, it was to prevent future sinkholes.
Yes, but I don't understand, it's a good point, because there's been an excavation in association with the sewer program, I forget which line it is, but in my neighbourhood, Omar, they excavated and then they did come back and several months later, they resurfaced the entire road. I don't know what determined that they did that as
It was
distinct.
probably because the pipe was in the middle of the road, so
Sewer
It
pipe,
could be.
Possibly.
yeah, that's probably what it was.
sewer pipe.
So
I
to
think-
go to a particular area in front of Party Park, they just dug up for all, and the playground and everything, and patched multiple patches. It makes no sense.
You're talking about,
And that
are you
was
talking about
nothing to do
Third
with the new
Avenue there
building.
or the city roads along either north
The
and south?
city road,
City roads north and south. Right?
no, sorry, east and west,
It runs
Okay.
east and west, but it's on the
Hardy
north
Park?
side.
by the Bagel
Yeah.
Co.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
So
they
they did
just
what again?
completed that
They
project.
did what?
So they dug up everything for the storm lines there, and they're working on completing new turf on the fields and the playground.
With the
But
roads?
they just dug up and it was, maybe you've been past there, there's like the CrossFit, the Bagel Co, and you're going into Tarpon River.
It's on the north side right before the track. Yeah, they might not be done.
So,
I
If
think
they're
they
still
might-
doing
I
work in
think
the
they
park,
still working.
they're probably, they don't
Just
wanna
gonna
chew
leave it
up the
that
brand
way.
new road if
There's
they're
a
still running
stormwater
equipment.
improvements there going
Yeah.
on, the bypasses.
But you know, I question, is this how we leave this? This is acceptable?
Well,
Not permanently.
yeah,
the problem is you have to leave it to, if you're not gonna backfill with flowable fill, you have to leave it to settle, because it's pointless resurfacing one lane or even the entire road where you've got a piece of it that's gonna continue sinking. So it is, in the short term, it's a problem.
Well, if they're also constructing, they're not gonna overlay the whole asphalt,
Correct.
then you're gonna have equipment come tear it up again, they won't pass through
Yeah,
final.
and there's that aspect.
I think it's David Mancini there, construction for the stormwater improvements. They actually did work in the River Oaks, they did great restoration, so I would not worry. The restoration is included, but it's still in progress, like they
I was told it was done, so I was just
They might be
asking,
done
'cause
with the underground, but not the whole project.
yeah, the
Which
bypasses
neighborhood is that?
That's gonna be Tarpon
heading
River.
towards Tarpon River, yeah.
That's
It's by the
It's by the
tennis
Cross on-
Publix,
is that cross on
it's south of the
Parkway?
Publix, right there
What's
by
that?
the tracks,
On 7.
Private development?
right near Hardy Park.
By
No,
Hardy
it's by
Park,
the
I think
tennis
it's in the
courts.
road.
Yeah, that's Hardy Park.
I don't think there's any private development right there.
Yeah, I think it's a city project. I think it's stormwater,
Roosevelt, you had a question, I'm sorry.
it's all city.
Once upon a time, we talked about seawalls and sidewalks. We also talked about bike paths, and we haven't talked about bike paths in a few years now. So, Omar, is bike paths now still part of the infrastructure? Those and
I think that's damn.
It's all
That is
part of
TAM.
Water trail.
That is TAM.
That would be transportation and, what's it?
Mobility.
Mobility.
Do you want them to talk about it, or, I mean, what is?
No, I just wonder if we gonna be briefed on, I mean, it was one of our tasks.
Did water trail sort of wither away?
No, I actually got sent plans to review today.
Yeah. They're doing a bunch right by Holiday Park.
Well, we asked Amelie to ask Karen
Sidewalks,
to
finding
come
lighting.
to our meeting about sidewalks, right?
Yeah.
So Karen is probably, to the extent there is much planned, she's probably bike paths as well. So maybe you can tell Karen that, you know, we're interested in bike paths as well.
And it might be somebody else, but
Yeah.
they can,
I'll find out.
yeah.
All right, so anybody else? I have one thing on the calendar. So, the last meeting of the commission before their summer break is, June the 30th, I believe. That's the last commission meeting, which is a Monday. So then they break until August the 19th. So we, in theory, would have meetings scheduled July the 7th and August the 4th. So I'm feeling like we ought to be able to not have one of those meetings and take the take some summer weeks off ourselves. That's one point. And the second point is that after the commission is back, our first meeting, in theory, would be September the first, which is Labour Day. So we won't have that, obviously. So that would normally be pushed until the following Monday, the 8th of September. So does anybody have a problem in principle if they look at arranging our September meeting for September the 8th? That's if there's a room available, etc., etc. So it's a bit subject to that. Perhaps you'd put into your calendars September the 8th as a provisional. And then you can put a question mark in my mind against July the 7th and August the 4th, and we'll decide if we want to have either or both of those meetings.
Sorry, Peter, when did you say was the last date for the city commission to meet in June?
It is the Monday.
They don't meet on Monday.
Well, it's in the calendar as, normally I'd agree with you, it would normally be July the 1st. When I looked at the commission calendar, it said the 30th, so maybe they moved it.
They moved probably sometime. See, they moved either to the next week or sometime they go to the next day.
Yeah, so I have for the commission in their calendar, I have 30th of June.
30th of June,
Yeah.
which is the last Monday of the month.
Yeah, and then their next meeting after that is the 19th of August.
Vicky, do you have the agenda, the schedule?
So, not Vicky, but yes, I do. Yes, I am on the website and he is correct. It is the 30th of June, the last meeting prior to the August meeting. And the next meeting after June 30th will be August the 19th.
So I don't see probably any need for us to have two meetings while the commission's on break, but I don't know which one to not have, because I don't feel like we can decide that necessarily until we know if and when we're gonna meet with the city commission at a joint meeting. Just giving you a heads up.
So just don't make a decision about it at this point.
I feel like we can't make a decision.
Yes.
I'm just saying you should question, we normally, we keep going, month by month.
Yeah.
But I feel like we could take one meeting off.
We took last July off, I think.
Did we?
Yeah, normally we take July off.
I probably took more than that.
I think we've taken two.
Yeah, I think you chose
Past.
people.
Which is why I'm looking ahead. All right, so that was all I had to say there, really. Anything else? The good of the order?
Excuse me for clarification, are you guys going to be taking July off or you have not decided
We
yet?
haven't decided because I need to come back to the next meeting and report what happened with the city commission. But what we do need to do, Amelia, is to know whether we can do September the 7th, whether we can get a room, etc.,
Okay, I'll contact the
Yeah.
to find out.
and then we can confirm that. Okay, so public comments, anybody from the public? No. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Chair?
10 minutes.
Number one source of